Hello, good evening, happy Friday. Hi, Mel. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Corinne. Welcome. Hi, Judy. Thank you, everyone who is hopping on. I appreciate you coming back and tuning in. Hi, Thelma. Happy Friday. Hi, Ann. If you are here, give me a like or a love. Remember, Friday is contest day. It's Fun Friday. So, hi, Mom. Thank you for sharing, Thelma. So I do two drawings on Friday. One where I give away a prize to someone who comments on the video and another prize to someone who shares the video. So my recommendation is that you comment that you shared the video after you share the video, and that way you're entered into both drawings. Thank you, Thelma. So, and the prizes are usually projects that I make on camera. So, everyone likes to win stuff, right? So, thank you for sharing, ladies. Oh, Corinne, I'm sorry you're having storms. Hopefully you won't lose service, but if you do, you can always catch the replay. And this video will be posted on my YouTube channel later this evening. And that is Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm, if you have not already checked that out and subscribed. So we will go ahead and get started. I know it's been a while since we've been together on a Friday, so I apologize for all the craziness and the sickness that has been going around here. Hopefully my voice will hold out. This cough doesn't quite want to quit. And I think if I could just not talk for a few days, I'd probably be good, but you know, when you have kids, there's no way you can get away without talking a lot. So hopefully we'll hang in there. I've got a cup of hot tea and some cough drops and water and everything at the ready here. So prizes from the last video. Miss Melody, this one is coming to you. And then Thelma, this card will be coming to you. So thank you, ladies, for commenting and sharing. And two of you will be the lucky winner of two of the projects we're making tonight. And then I have one more prize to announce, our August order prize. Every month I put everybody who ordered off my website and uses my host code into a drawing for a prize that I choose. It's not something the company does, it's just something I do personally out of my stash. And so the prize for August was this beautiful Pale Papaya ribbon. I almost called it peach. I'm like, no, it's not peach. There's an official name. It's Pale Papaya. So this is going to Rosemary. I know she's not on tonight. She was going to see a play. That's very exciting. Or a musical. So anyway, that'll be going to her. And the September order prize is going to be the newly retired silver and gold 6x6 specialty paper that was just part of this last celebration. So someone at the end of the month will receive this beautiful pack of paper. So tonight we are going to learn the whitewash technique. This was one I'd heard about for a long time, had never tried it, decided I wanted to try it, and when I first started I wasn't over the moon about it. This was the first card that I made. We're going to do one that's a little bit different, but along the same lines. And so I started working on it here. I want to get it a little bit closer. And I thought, I'm not sure. But the more I worked with the card and the technique, the more I loved it. So I hope you guys will love it too. It's a little involved. It's not terribly complicated. You do have to have the right supplies to do it, but it's not a ton of things and it can be done pretty easily. Drying time will take you the most. So we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to move my tea a little bit closer, but not too close to me, in case I need it. All right. So we're doing this a little bit differently tonight in that I'm not going to show you how to make the whole card, we're going to focus on the front of the card. So, and I can't wait for you ladies to see the samples because I think they came out really cool. All right, so the main thing we're going to need for this card is a piece of dark colored cardstock. This is Mary Merlot. I don't use it very often, so I thought, why not try it? This is 5 1/4 by 4. And what I'm basically doing is creating a panel that will later be put onto a card. So we're going to start with this, and you can do whatever orientation you want of the card. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be a certain direction, so whatever you're happy with. You will need a stamp set that has open spaces in it, so more like an outline. Certain stamps we have in the catalog just will not work for this technique, because with the whitewash, what we are doing is filling in those open spaces with a whitewash and then some color. So you definitely need something with some outlines and some open spaces. And we do have a handful, probably more than a handful, but a good handful of stamp sets that work for this. And you'll see some other stamp sets that we have that will work in my samples later. So to get started, we're going to take our panel. We need Versamark ink. This is our clear ink pad. So it's great for watermarking, but you can also use it to heat emboss because it's not exactly sticky, but it's stickier than regular ink, if that makes sense. And it stays wet a bit longer, and that's how you can put the powder on it and have the powder stick. You can't heat emboss with regular ink pads like our dye ink pads. It just won't work. You need Versamark, or you can even emboss with our craft ink, but Versamark allows you to do a lot of different colors. So I'm going to need my Stampin' Pierce mat because my stamp is photopolymer. And then I am going to be stamping off the page a little bit, so I have a piece of scrap paper as well. And first up, I'm going to put my sentiment in the middle first and then work around it. So I'm doing something slightly different than that sample card I showed you, just because one of the stamps was giving me a little bit of trouble, so I sort of changed things around a little bit. The Versamark works the same way that a regular ink pad works. You just tap, and you won't be able to see it quite as much, but if you hit the light right, you can tell that you've got ink coverage there. And then I'm going to stamp that. And you can't, it's a little hard to see, but it's there. And then I'm going to take my flower here. I'm going to stamp one up here on the corner, and then I'm going to flip around to the bottom. This is where I'm going to focus, and I'm going to stamp this one a little more on the page, and then one down here a little bit off, and one more little bit over here. So now you have a little bit of time to do this, but you don't want to take half an hour because your ink will dry up. But I made a mistake, but that's okay. I did not use my embossing buddy. I got so excited to get started, I forgot to use my embossing buddy, which is, it's like a little chalk pillow that you rub on your cardstock. You know, I'm just going to flip it over and show you so it comes out the right way. It's okay. So this you just rub over your cardstock. It helps eliminate static. And I should have done that first. See, I was so excited to be back with y'all, I forgot all about what I was doing. That's okay. So real quick, and it is a good idea to try not to touch all over your cardstock once you've used that pillow, just so you don't pick up more static, but we do have some other tools that will help you if you do have some static. All right, there we go. And I always recommend covering your Versamark back up before you start playing with embossing powder, because I don't inadvertently, excuse me, want to get embossing powder in my ink pad. So this is part of our new heat embossing toolkit. This is a little tray, and I'm going to hold my cardstock over and take my white embossing powder and pour it on my card and tap it a little bit. And then I'm going to switch around, and you can see how the powder clung to the Versamark ink. And same thing here. And then what I like to do is flip it over and flick it. Kind of try to knock off as much as you can. And then, I kind of have a little fingerprint there, but that's all right. We do have, a little brush that comes in the kit. This kit is new. We've had the embossing buddy before, but the whole kit and caboodle is in the new holiday mini. And the trick is to brush without destroying what you've stamped on. But there we go. Now, the kit also comes with, I think these are called inside out tweezers. I always want to call them backwards tweezers. When you squeeze in, they open up. So that's a little different than your regular tweezers. They've got that crisscross design. And these are great because the next step would be to heat emboss. And if you've got a heat tool, you know it's hot. It's why it's a heat tool. It's hotter than a hair dryer. Some of them look like mini hair dryers, but they're very, very hot because they have to heat this powder to get it to heat seal. And so these tweezers are great to hold the paper and then be able to use your heat tool to come in and heat up the sections that you need to heat emboss. Now, I decided not to do that on camera tonight because my heat tool was being a little non-cooperative earlier in the week. So I went ahead and, ta-da, have a embossed panel already. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see on camera, but the embossing powder has been heat set and it has a nice little texture to it. This is one of the really cool things about heat embossing if you've ever done it before, and I will do a video on it at some point, I promise. I may have done a little bit in another video, but watching the powder go from the powder form to the set form is really cool. It just like magically transforms your card, so that's really, really neat. All right, so now on to the kind of the meat of the technique here. We are going to create the whitewash for the card. I recommend that you have a paper towel handy because you'll probably need it, and also a piece of scrap paper. I might actually work right on top of my scrap paper. Maybe, maybe not. I'll keep it handy in case I need it. But I'll show you why it's handy to have those close by. The other thing you're going to need is an aqua pen or an aqua painter. They've had different names over the years, but it's basically the clear pen with a brush tip, and it just has regular water in it. It's not a fancy solution, it's just water, so you can refill it whenever it gets low. And this is how we're going to apply our whitewash. Now, I'm going to take a clear block and my white refill for my craft ink. You can also, if you don't have a refill, if you have a craft ink pad with the white ink, you can use that as well. It's a little, you'll get a lighter color, so you might need to put a little more on, but the concept is going to be the same, so I'll show you. What I'm going to do is take some of the ink here and put it right on my block. I don't need much, and I discovered when I started working with this technique that our white ink is thicker than our regular ink. So if you've got this and you haven't tried it before, don't be surprised. It's going to come out more like glue. But you don't need a lot. That's probably plenty. But if you were to use a regular refill for this, you would it would come out a lot faster, so just be forewarned, but the white ink comes out thicker. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little water painter. You can squeeze it to get some water out. Don't squeeze it over your card. I like to squeeze a little bit on my block, and you don't have to really squeeze it, just gentle. Can you see I got a little bit of water here? That's what you want, because we're going to mix a little bit, and you can kind of pull it down. The trick is you don't want too much ink, or it'll look like you painted with whiteout, but you don't want too little either. But you're just gonna take it and start painting in your lines. It's almost gonna look like you're painting with milk. You don't want it to be too saturated though. So it is a little bit of a learning curve to try to get the right balance, but it does not take you long to figure it out. And if you want it to be a little darker, just pick up a little more of the ink. I am gonna work a little bit on my scrap paper since I'm working right here in the corner. And basically we're just gonna paint all these open spaces. Now, you can do what I'm doing here and paint right over your lines if you want. I recommend when you're done, have your paper towel handy and just blot it a little bit. And that's more important once you're getting to the color section of this. But the ink will just sit on top of those embossed lines. And so you don't want extra ink that's going to rub off on your fingers, because I am the queen of ink smudges. Did that the other day. So I like to make sure I don't have any ink sitting around for me to stick my fingers in. All right, so there's that flower up at the top. Pardon me. Now you can add more whitewash if you want. So you don't want it too heavily saturated, but if you aren't happy with the white or the degree of white, go back and add a little bit more. So there's the top. I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to flip around and do the same thing here on the bottom. Now if you run out of ink, that's okay. Just repeat the step. Grab a little bit more of your refill, put it on the block, and then continue painting. And so I'm trying not to take all night to do this, but you get the idea, right? And so this is fun. It's kind of like watercoloring, except no paint by number. It kind of looks like it could be a paint by number, right? And so the trick is just stay within your lines, which I'm doing a good job of going out of the lines, but that's all right. So when I was about to this point, when I first started this technique, I thought, I don't know about this. I just wasn't feeling it quite yet, but we're gonna get to the fun part in just a minute. A couple spots here that need a little bit more. All right, so you can see why you need a dark color for this to show up. Obviously, you don't want to whitewash on white because you wouldn't be able to see it. All right, so when you're done, grab your water painter and your paper towel and just go back and forth. Now it's a little harder when you're working with white to tell when the white ink is off. So give it a little squeeze, get a little more water flowing, just to make sure your brush is clean. I guess you could have a scrap of a dark color that you can kind of swish on and make sure that you don't have any white left in your aqua painter, because you don't need one for every color. You can just clear the brush on your paper towel or scrap paper, and then you're ready to move on to the next color. Now you could, if you wanted, leave the card just like this. I think certain stamp sets, you'd be perfectly fine. This is actually kind of pretty, I think, with the with just the whitewash on it, but I'm going to show you how you can jazz it up. So it's up to you if you want to leave it as it is here. I recommend letting it dry overnight. That way you don't have any smudges, and it's just a good idea to let things dry. But if you don't want the whitewash, if you want to add a little color, you just keep going. And I can actually go ahead and start on my color right now. So have fun with your color selection. I thought, okay, what's going to show up on this Mary Merlot cardstock? And different colors will show up differently on the dark colors. So I have Flirty Flamingo and Melon Mambo, which normally I would not at all put together with this Mary Merlot. But I could use the same technique that I used before with a clear block, either clean it off or get a fresh one. Or you can take your ink pad, and this is easier with the older style ink pads, but it is doable with the new ones. Give your ink pad a hug, squeeze it, so that the lid pushes down into the ink pad a little bit. It'll leave a lovely little splush mark, but you need a little bit. Doesn't have to be a ton of ink. There we go, kind of like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of water, not too much because I don't want water messing up my ink pad. And I'm going to pull a little bit of that color out, spread it around a little bit. Start light. You can always go back and add more color, but you can't take it away once you've put it on. And then start applying your color. And so you can have as much fun as you want applying these colors. And what you may find is you might pick a color that you like and get started, but then when you're finished doing all the bits and pieces, you might think, you know, I wish that was a little bit darker. Well, guess what? Grab some more ink and come back in and keep going. You have to watch that you don't oversaturate the paper, but you can layer more color if you want a deeper shade. And so you can color with your aqua painter until you're happy with how it looks. And one thing I think is neat with flowers is I can use a little bit lighter in some areas and a little bit darker to kind of give the flower more depth. And so once I started putting color on some of these cards, I thought, okay, now we're getting somewhere. I see where this can be fun. So if you guys try this, if you've done this before, let me know what you thought of it. Or if you're going to try it, I hope you'll let me know what you think. And see, I can come back and add a little bit more color. Some cards are easier to tell than others where you've colored and where you haven't. The pink really soaks into the Mary Merlot, but I can just keep adding color until I'm happy. And if you do have a little extra ink laying in places, for example, I've got the white here where there's a little bit more embossing. Really just gently, you can just take your paper towel and kind of dab the ink off. You don't want to really smush it too hard though, because it might pick up some of the ink from the paper if it's not quite dry, and you don't want to undo the work that you just did. So I'm going to flip around to this end and then do a little bit more, and then we'll pull in some of that Flirty Flamingo too. So this is just a fun technique. And I mentioned earlier, if you don't have the white refill, but you do have the white ink pad, you can use the same squish technique on the lid to pick up the ink, just like I'm doing this for the whitewash. Or you can actually take your aqua painter, and dab right on your ink pad. You can pick up color that way too. It's really up to you. I know there are some demonstrators I know that wouldn't dream of touching the aqua painter to their ink pads, and others it doesn't bother them a bit. So it's really your personal preference and what you want to do. right. And remember, if you're close to the edge, you might want to just have a piece of scrap paper so that you're not mucking up your work surface. All right, so I think I'm gonna come back now. I'm just gonna take my pen. You can see I can squish the color right out. And it's clean and I can start again. It's more important when you're working with different shades like red and yellow, as opposed to 2 shades of pink or red. It doesn't matter so much, but depending on what you're doing, you might want to just avoid that. All right, so same thing, pick up color. And this is lighter, but it's a different shade. And things may look different after they dry completely. I noticed that on a couple of my samples, that I set them aside and let them dry overnight, and they had a really different look in the morning, but I still liked it. But I think they do tend to lighten up a little bit as they dry. And it also depends on the degree of whitewash that you gave it. So tell me, what are you guys thinking? You think this might be something you'd like to try? I promise I'm just about done here. But this was just something neat, and I'd heard about it for a long time, and I thought, you know what? Time to pull this out of the bag of tricks and see what we think. So, let's see. I think I'm going to add a little bit more color here. But really, you can keep going until you're happy. And then, like I said, just let it dry. Maybe let it dry overnight and then come back to it. Up to you. All right. It is fun, Corinne. Something different. And even if you think maybe you're not too artsy, it's really easy to be artsy with this technique. Because you don't have to be perfect, but you get the look that you're going for, and it is kind of fun and playful. All right, so I think I'm gonna go with that. I will post pictures of this card tomorrow. Once it dries and I put the whole card together, so you can see what the finished product looked like. All right, so I am gonna dab a little bit here at the bottom. Make sure I don't have any extra ink, but there is our whitewash. Corinne, I don't know that you could do this without heat embossing, because you might have like bleed across with the not having, I mean, it's not like the patterns are raised a lot, but you'd have to be more careful, so I'm honestly not sure. You could give it a try if you don't have the heat emboss, if you've just got white. See what happens. It might be that your colors will kind of wipe out your lines if it doesn't have heat embossing. So that's something to think about. That might be a concern, but it's worth a shot. Definitely try it out, and if you do, let me know how it goes. Mel, it is a little interesting to color match, but I'll show you some samples so you can see what else I came up with. And one of the ideas kind of popped in my head, and I thought, I wonder if this is going to work. So I'm saving that one for last. I also wanted to tell you, if you make a mistake or something, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, because I totally had a goof up on this card that I showed you first. This piece here is popped up on dimensionals and a die cut, and I did not originally have that on the card. I had stamped this happy birthday, and for whatever reason, it didn't quite gel when I put the heat emboss on it, so it kind of faded out in the middle, looked a little fuzzy, and I thought, well, darn it, I'm not gonna, you know, I didn't want to redo the card. I hadn't added the color yet, so I could have, but I thought, nah, I'll show the girls and then I'll just pitch the card. And I thought, you know what, I don't have to do that. What I did was I came back with a scrap. I heat embossed the same happy birthday and just cut it out so it covered. I did need a bigger shape than I would have liked to cover the original wording there that was messed up, but that's okay. It still looks good, right? And I added, can you see my little sploosh? You guys know I'm a fan of splooshes and splatters. I just added some tone on tone to fill in some of the empty space there. So if you feel like your card is too bare, if you do something like this, grab a sploosh or a splatter or whatever you want to call those designs, something with a little texture to it, and stamp tone on tone, or maybe do a little color. That'll help fill in some of that space. You're going to see a lot of that coming up. All right, so our hand-penned petals is another stamp set that is great for this technique. This is Night of Navy that I stamped on. And then I used, let's see, I think I used Garden Green for my leaves. I used Cherry Cobbler or Mary Merlot for some of the flowers. I grabbed Pumpkin Pie and there's some yellow in here too. I'll get it a little bit closer so you can see a little bit better. I know my camera is not the best here. Again, there's a little bit more of that splatter, sploosh. And here I added some of our, some bling. I can't think of what those are called. And you can change the look of your card by the cardstock that you pair it with. This, I wanted to make it pop. These layers are 5 by 3 3/4. So you can have the look like this one, where it's one simple panel, or if you like multiple layers, just go ahead and cut down your layers. So the white is 5 1/4 by 4, and the navy is 5 by 3 3/4. But you can completely change the look of your card by changing the colors of the cardstock you use. So this is, I think it's mint macaron with rich raspberry. And basically what I did was I started with my ink colors on my panel first, and then I decided once everything was dry, what am I going to pair this with? Also on this one, I think the flowers were yellow, and after this dried for a bit, they're definitely not as yellow as they looked when I finished, but it's okay. It's a little more subtle look, and I'm still going to roll with it. And of course, don't forget you can stamp your envelopes. You don't want to whitewash your envelopes since they're white, but you can have that accent stamp there on the corner as well. And then I just kept the inside simple for this one. And you can choose to put verbiage on your panel like we did here, and I just heat embossed it when I did the other design. Or, hi Mary B, we're talking about the whitewash technique. For this one, I just added my sentiment later. So it's really up to you how much you want to play and how much you want to put on your card. Now these next ones are pretty too. I use Blessings of Home, which is one of my favorite stamp sets. This one had a little bit more to the outline. It had some more detail to the flowers, if you can see, but it still worked. And this one, I'm going to be honest, my wording got messed up as well on these. So I put the little sentiment strips across. This one, I painted the insides of the flower yellow. I painted my leaves, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna leave it. So the rest of the flowers, they look purple, but it's just the whitewash that was there. And to show you a comparison, these cards were exactly the same. Same gorgeous great background, same white heat embossing. This is the one where I left most of it, the whitewash technique alone with no color. And then here's one where I colored it in. And I don't remember what colors I used. Might have been, I think I had polished pink. I know my leaves here are shaded spruce because I really wanted them to show up on the purple. And then I just kept the inside simple. I used that splatter from the front on the inside and added my sentiment there. And then I used it tone on the front there to add a little accent, just fill in some of that space. And then the last card, while I was rooting through my stamp set to see, okay, what am I going to do? How could this work? This one stamp set popped into my head and I thought, ooh, maybe this could be cool. Maybe I could try this on yellow and see what works. So I think this is my favorite. Check out the butterflies. Hi, Mary, welcome. Sorry I didn't see you pop on. I would have said hello. But I was really super excited about this. This is one, because there was more heat embossing to it, I definitely had that paper towel handy to blot off as I went so that I didn't have ink pooling on the top of the card. But my background is polished pink on this one, and when I did the yellow, I thought, okay, what colors do I want to have with this card? So I pulled in Coastal Cabana and Bermuda Bay, Flirty Flamingo and Polished Pink, Highland Heather, and Fresh Freesia. I know this big butterfly here is Fresh Freesia. And so I just opted for my card base in Polished Pink and the banner in Coastal Cabana. I didn't want to cover too much of that beautiful butterfly design. And this is all one stamp. It's our Butterfly Brilliance stamp, so it's a large stamp. And then I added some opal rounds, and I decided for my other panel, I just flipped the color scheme. So the butterflies are all done the same, but you can see how you get a different look each time, just because the amount of ink, the amount of whitewash you have is going to be different. But I used the same colors, and I just flipped the pinks and blues. So I think these are really my favorite. I added some little butterflies to the inside. And I'll get a little closer for these too, because I just thought these were stunners. I was so proud of myself because I thought, look at that. The idea that I had in my head actually turned out on paper. I was rather tickled. Sometimes that happens. Not very often, but sometimes. All right. So that is our whitewash technique. So I hope you enjoyed learning something new and different. I know I did. I had the thought, I could quit stamping and just do whitewash technique from now on. It was so much fun, but I won't do that, I promise. But I think I will break this out from time to time and play with it. And I hope you will too. And I will post pictures of these cards on the Facebook page shortly, once I get the pictures taken. And then once I get this card done tomorrow, I will show you the finished result as well. So thank you for coming back and watching. I know it seems like forever since we've been together on a Friday. We're in the month of September now. So, and I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. That's where we were last weekend. So it's all a blur to me. Monday, September 12th, we will have Mystery Monday at 8:30. So, oh, Mary, I'm so glad. Thank you for tuning in. I like learning new things. I got a whole long list, so we're tackling them one at a time. So Monday at 8:30 is Mystery Monday. Excuse me, see the voice is going. I will post a supply list on Monday morning if you want to craft along with me. And then you won't get to see the card until we go live at 8:30. Then Friday night we'll be back. I have a card in mind, but I can't remember what it looks like. My friend Cindy made a beautiful card back in April, and I've had it on my mind to do. I have that as my idea for next week. So that'll be next Friday, which is the 16th. And then you'll see the supply list in the morning for that card, as well as a picture of what we'll be working on. So I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed the technique, and I'm so glad you tuned in. As I said, the replay for this video will be up just about as soon as I finish up. And then this video will also be put over on my YouTube channel, hopefully in short order. And if you missed it, you can either go back and watch the replay, or you can hop over to that YouTube channel and check that out there. So I'm going to stop rambling for the evening, save my voice a little bit. Stay tuned to the Facebook page tomorrow. I will be revealing later in the evening the October 1st World Card Baking Day cards that we are going to make. If you're local to me in Maryland and can come, there'll be details about that. But I'm going to share with the girls who are coming to my workshop tomorrow. And then as soon as I share with them and get back home, you guys will get to see it on the Facebook page and see all the details. So I hope you will tune in and check them out. It's 12 cards, and I think they're all gorgeous, and I can't wait to share them with you. So, all right. Take care, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope to see you online on Monday night for Mystery Monday. Take care, everybody. Happy crafting.